Welcome to the next episode of the Iowa Girls Wrestling Stories podcast, now partnered with Chain Wrestling. And today I have round two with Courtney Blenner. Probably remember from our first one that she has a lot of knowledge about nutrition. She's a bodybuilder also, so we really wanted to take a deep dive into off-season nutrition and into strength training and just different things like that. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you, Troy?
Doing awesome. You know, you were at our practice just a couple weeks ago. I'd asked you to come in and you put the girls through a workout. Um, we talked a little bit ahead of time, but what are some of the things that you saw in that little workout that maybe we need to work on and stuff we talked earlier? But
Yeah. So what was the funniest thing is those girls, I felt like one, I was like eye-opening to say this is where we need to focus on, but also I think we all got a fun laugh out of it. Pull-ups, man, just being able to do body weight movements, the how much value there are. Now your girls, we got to talk about how great they were at push-ups though. Like I think all of them did really well. I brought a Bosu ball, which is, a half domed ball. They did really, really well on push-ups. We did some lunges, some squats, those type of movements. Pull-ups were the biggest struggle. So just realizing, the pull-ups, jump ropes, push-ups, medicine ball slams, things that you can do with very limited equipment, body weight type stuff. That is something that I feel like I found more value in a little bit later in my life here, that being able to do a pull up and at all times, just those body weight movements, those are something to think about too. The reason I think pull ups are so important when it comes to a wrestler is their back, right? Their back and their body and being able to pull themselves. That is just a big movement in general when it comes to wrestling. So I just feel like if you're able to control your body and those type of movements, man, you control your body, you'll be able to control that opponent's body. So pull-ups, girls, let's work on those this off season.
yeah, and you brought in one that you can hang over a door. We happen to have a pull-up bar in the room. So, I mean, what, $20 they can buy a hanging pull-up bar? Is that
Yeah,
approximately
and
the cost?
I didn't bring my bands. I have like big elastic. You can either get rubber or the bands that I'm talking
Yep.
about, the ones you
Yep.
can either put in a doorway or flip over something. So I take one of those and I loop it through for my pull-ups. So they're called assisted pull-ups. Using a band to start with that, and I apologize for not bringing that. I was like, that's how you start. Start with I pair up a couple of those bands, and then you kind of whittle down to, can I get to doing an unassisted pull-up? So I think some people, even when it comes to push-ups, start on your knees. Then you're going to start, okay, can I do some on my knees, some on my toes, ending up with some all of them on your toes. So it's something that you can build up. And what I love about those, and I think in any workout, is just being able to write down, hey, here's the date, maybe trying a couple times a week and seeing, okay, over the summer, can I build up my strength by increasing those type of movements? Maybe it's push-ups in a minute. We did a Tabata style workout where it
Yep.
was every minute or every 30 seconds, I think we did something and then we rested for 30 seconds. So being able to do those type of things and just measure yourself to know, like, am I getting stronger? That's a question I think a lot of people are going into this off season with, is like, what's my goal? Like, what do I need to do? And if it is to get stronger, how do I do that? And I think maybe I'm leading you a little bit in our
Nope.
conversation here,
Nope.
but
That's all right.
when it comes to building that strength, that yes, nutrition is incredibly important. You want to stay high protein. And I think as high schoolers, as you go into this off season, don't treat it too much different as your season, right? I bet maybe they ate a little bit better, kind of stayed away from the junk foods and high processed food. Keep that going in the off season. Now, you might have the ability to, if I eat a little bit more, you can take that and use it in a gym, use it to do your workouts, to make your body work. Because what you're going to be doing if you're eating a little bit more in the off season and then you're heading into some sort of resistance training, that extra energy is going to go towards building that strength, changing those muscles. And again, it's got to track the workout to know. And I think it was interesting, like you said, we talked a little bit before this, but as a high schooler, I think I touched the barbell maybe a handful of times because I had to in some sort of PE class, right? I was never in the gym. But I want you to realize, and I think my getting into bodybuilding and getting into changing my physique and how my body looks, again, yes, nutrition is important, but lifting heavy things. And heavy, I know I get some people that are like, well, I don't want to get underneath a barbell. I don't feel like that's safe. Free weights, machines, even, yes, body weight, but we do want to try to put some sort of resistance to it. So dumbbells are great tools. And I think again, the heavy is relative, right? Some well, that's kind of heavy. Even for me, there's some weeks where I feel like a certain weight feels a certain way, and then another time it doesn't. So just listening to your body, starting somewhere and then tracking it, right? Is week to week, am I able to add a few more reps? And it's not always about increasing weight. You're looking at volume week to week. And so volume is weight times reps. If you add a couple reps, you just increased your volume. So I think, realizing whatever workout program you're following, you're getting into some sort of resistance training 3 or 4 days a week. Keep it the same week to week. And I like to do full body workouts. So 2 lower body days, 2 upper body days, or maybe you mix it, it's 50-50 each day. Full body workouts have a lot of value. Just being able to, okay, if I did Monday was this day, next week, Monday you should do the exact same thing. I work in 6 to 8 week blocks personally. And so I'm just like, those 6 weeks are like, yes, it seems a little redundant, but I find it fun. Now I'm challenging myself. It's you versus you in that gym, right? And just thinking, can I get a little bit better than I was the week before? And what's fun about it, okay, and you made a great point, Troy, is like how much confidence, not only are you building muscle, right, that we're going to start changing our physique, you build confidence because you're proving to yourself, okay, I can do it. Okay, I can stick to something and I can be consistent over time. So you're building that confidence. And then you're also going to see and feel that my physique is changing a little bit. People are going to notice a little bit more. And that just kind of has this like, it just cultivates that confidence. So you're going to find more than just strength in a gym. So don't be afraid of that. And I think, a lot of places locally, we're here in Northwest Iowa, rec centers. I think they're very user friendly. You get a bunch of age people in there, right? It's
Yep.
not just the, different spectrum. Those I think are very user friendly. And don't be afraid to, reach out and ask for help. It's being able to, you got to get comfortable with it, but how do you start is getting a little uncomfortable in those situations.
Yeah, I think, some of my girls, what, really sparked some of my interest in this as we go to different tournaments and we see girls and a lot of the things out of my girls, like, man, she's just jacked and stuff, and she looks really strong. Um, but I know that there's a lot of people that believe that maybe if they lift weights, they're going to start looking like a boy. And that's absolutely not even close to that. I mean, that requires maybe even some chemical enhancements to start looking like that. So, what are some things that you said leaner body. They're getting into we're going to be coming into spring, and so even just getting in the weight room could prepare you for that beach season. What are some other things? Confidence, enhancing your sports performance. What else can lifting do you think for yourself?
Yeah, I think the two things is realizing in the weight room and lifting, you're going to change your muscle shape, right? You're going to be able to change, if you think about it and you jump over, my Instagram or my Facebook and see kind of my before and afters and the change in my physique. I guess if you look at that and think, I mean, I thought the same thing, right? I'm going to get big and bulky. Well, it's really hard to do that. I'm an all natural athlete. I've never taken any steroids or performance enhancing drugs. And so taking a look at that, I guess I look at my pictures and I was like, I don't feel like I look that way. But yet
Yep.
I have thought as I'm lifting heavy things is like, goodness, this is going to get me bulky. But the other piece of it is that we're changing our muscle shape and building muscle when we lift things. If we want to see that muscle shape, that is going to be coming from nutrition, right? If we overeat too much, we're going to feel and look fluffy because there's a fat layer covering our muscle. Now, the nutrition is whether if you want to see that muscle a little bit more, when you eat, right? If we're eating high protein and staying in a decent range for calories, you're going to start seeing that fat layer dissipate. It's going to go down, and then you're going to see that shape a little bit more. So I think the bulkiness, man, you'd have to eat a lot. And you're right, it probably comes at some performance enhancing things, adding some things, which, we're not going to go to that route. Just
Yep.
realizing that lifting heavy things is not what makes us bulky, right? When it comes to that, it's a lot of other things. But I do think paying attention to nutrition is going to be a big way to prevent yourself, like, if you did start lifting heavier, but then you ate a lot more, yeah, you're going to get bigger. You may feel like you got bulky, but I would say then it comes back to controlling our nutrition.
Yeah.
I encourage trying to hit 1 to 1, 1 gram of protein to your body weight, 1 pound of body weight, trying to stay up there. So I hover that 135 to 140 grams of protein daily. It does require me to have a protein shake. And then I just think about, the Greek yogurts. I have that every day. I add a partial scoop of protein powder to kind of beef that up a little bit. I don't have a problem eating, beef, chicken, pork. The white meats are going to be the higher in protein, but don't forget about, our eggs. And yes, like I said, that protein shake really helps. And there are a lot of vegan options out there for protein powders. I know some people they don't like the, casein, whey, classic type of protein. They do it. There's vegan ones out there. They might be a little bit more expensive, but also don't forget about the lentils, the beans, chia seeds. There's different type of plant-based proteins out there too. It's a little bit harder. You kind of gotta search and find those things, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, that's actually something I found out late in the year that we actually had some girls that are vegetarian, and getting them some options. And you mentioned some great options, uh, but that's part of when you are trying to build muscle. Protein is obviously probably the most important thing, so it's something they have to be really conscious of. You had talked earlier also about tracking everything. Tracking diet is probably just as important as tracking workout. Um, Anything that they can do, or is there what do you use to track all of your food intake and things like that?
Yeah, so I use my Fitness Pal. There's a free version out there, and you can even do where, I mean, maybe you're just tracking your protein, right? You're tracking just so you can kind of see where that's at. So as you're eating protein, you're just watching that. I kind of put everything in there. And what you can learn about that is if there's when it comes to calories, three things. If you're eating in a surplus, your weight's going to go up. If you're eating in a maintenance, which means, you're going to maintain your scale won't change a lot. And when I say it won't change a lot, you can still hover, 4 to 5 pounds and you're still maintaining. You're going to have days where maybe it's higher carbs and you held onto some water versus a day where it was a little lower. Maybe you're close to your cycle. Women close to our cycle will hold on to a little bit more water. So it will fluctuate even if you're maintaining. And then we got the third one, if you're eating in a deficit. So if you're eating lower than what your body needs to maintain weight, then your scale is going to go down. And so knowing on where that's at, gosh, as teenagers, as high schoolers, it's crazy that, they can hit that 2,000, 2,100, 2,200 calories and their scale could go down. Their metabolisms are so high when they're young. And so the other thing too, you mentioned to build muscle, protein is important. To maintain muscle, protein is important. It's always whether I'm in a surplus and I'm trying to build muscle, if I'm maintaining or if I'm in a deficit, my protein number doesn't change. So what's crazy is I may drop down 300 or 400 calories to try to, maybe I want to, lean out a little bit for summer here. I still stay high protein. That protein number doesn't change for me. So I just trying to keep that in mind that whenever you're going through, protein's just kind of that dominant thing. So one way is to, if you don't want to track all of your calories, that you're like, hey, I'm not too worried about that. I just want to stay high protein, using that as a tool to know where your protein is at. And I'm very much a creature of habit. I have this routine of like, here's what I have for breakfast. It's the same every day. Lunch is the same every day. Maybe it's the supper where things change a little bit, but I try to still keep it in a pretty good structure. Kind of thinking about that. When one thing I don't do, I'm not a snacker. Snacking will get you in trouble. It'll kind of give you that little inkling of, okay, I took a bite here. Well, now I'm bored and I'm going to eat here. So just trying to say, hey, I'm going to have, if it's 3 meals a day, or maybe it's three big meals and two structured, a little higher protein in between. That's going to also help you during those times as snacking can get away. Those extra bites are what kind of adds up in the end. So keeping that in mind. And I think the last podcast, we did talk a little bit about two things that are going to make us feel full. So as you're going through is protein. Protein's one, and fiber. So keeping our fiber up, that's going to help with digestion, help you feel full no matter what you're doing. So if all of a sudden you're feeling super snacky and you're like, it's at this time of day, could be a little bit of a habit, but also, man, is that when my blood sugar crashes? And then that's when I crave it. Just keeping that up with some good fiber options and the potato, sweet potato, oatmeal, keeping our fruits and vegetables. Those are definitely going to help us feel full as you're thinking through that.
Yeah, I'm hearing the creating good habits during the off season would be a great time to really get in that, instead of just going nuts over the summer and coming back and now I'm going to try to get back into this nutrition thing. So if we could just create those habits, our 100 ounces of water a day continues throughout the year, not just during season, things like that. So yeah, I those are awesome, awesome tips that you're giving out. Um, I'm trying to just look through my list here. And what if we got into talking a little bit about some of the things that we do, free weights, and maybe versus body weight? What can we do? Let's just take squats. Um, Squats are a great lift. Probably one of my favorites that I ever did. But body weight option on that is there's a lot of great body weight options on that. We did some the other day, jump squats. Just maybe talk a little bit about the different lifts and how we can go back and forth between free weight, machine, body weight, and just some of the things that you think that would be very beneficial for them in the off season.
Yeah, when you think about squats, what's cool about squats is whether you say you put your heels up. Well, now you've got a squat that's going to be more quad focused. So those are called like heel elevated squat. So you just step on, an inch plate. That's going to change where it's going to work. Okay. And then I would think about a front squat. So say you got some free weights and you can either have them down by your side, right? That's going to work probably just more of your glutes, your hamstrings. Say you put a goblet squat on the front, you're holding it in the front. Well, now you're more focused on, again, the quads, right? So you're just kind of tailoring a little bit to what it's working. But I would always think about, I love barbell squats, even just the bar itself, 45 pounds. I think it keeps you steady, keeps your chest open so that you're more focused to work your lower half versus, I think sometimes with those just free weights. We lean forward a little bit too much, or maybe we focus, kind of our back gets curled a little bit. So it keeps that chest open, keeps it up. You're just able to maybe keep form a little bit better. And I want to think about too, no matter what movement you're doing, good form is essential. So if you're doing something, you're like, ooh, I'm questioning about my form, go lighter weight, even go no weight, body weight only to really get your form down and then add some weights to increase after that. But when I think about barbell would be my first one, just because you can do so many variations with that. I would say, yeah, I guess dumbbell too, right? There's different ways to do that. But thinking about if you're working on those explosive movements is being able to, we did those jump squats, we did jump lunges. Those are great things. And thinking about, lower half movements. The big compound movements, I really like to focus around those. So you get your squats, your deadlifts, overhead shoulder press. I'm gonna run out. Okay, bench press, and I'm missing one more. Maybe it'll come to
Yeah,
me.
I like throwing
Um,
cleans in there. Is clean something that, that's
I have not, cleans are hard for me, I think, to make sure I have my form correct. So I
uh
don't do those. But why am I'm blanking? We got bench press. Now we're
rows?
row type movements are great for your back, but I'm thinking
I,
I'm blanking a little bit. Well, when it comes to, you got your deadlifts again, the barbell deadlift, you can do deadlifts with Romanian deadlifts with your dumbbells. Again, you're working your lower half, your shoulder presses, your bench presses, all of those are really important. And again, that they're full body movements. When I love to hate the Romanian or not what Bulgarian split squats. Those
oh
um
yeah.
those will get you, right? All you do in those, again, if you can have something in your house to a little below or a little above knee height, set your back foot on that and do a squat that way. Body weight itself will kill you. That's just about getting depth and really stretching. And I think, that goes to say on like the flexibility and mobility type things is being able to, all of that goes together, to making your body move the way it should and make you like feel good, right? Your body should feel good. And yes, you're going to feel sore after some of those movements. But it's also knowing that soreness isn't a bad thing. You know, keeping our water intake up, like you mentioned, is definitely going to help with that. But always keeping good form. And I think, when you think there's different ways to do everything. And I like to think about it as can I work my quads? Can I work my hamstrings? Can I work my glutes in certain ways? And then I want to work my back and then move up to upper body, tricep, bicep, shoulder, right? A little bit of lat movement if I can. Just kind of putting that all together. And you're going to feel those things get a little bit easier as you do different combinations of them.
Yeah. And I think you talked earlier, I don't know if it was in our conversation beforehand or during this, the goals of lifting. What are your
Yes.
goals of lifting? Can you maybe elaborate a little bit more on that? Because obviously there's a lot of different ways you can lift for. As an older adult, I do more higher reps, repetitions, not very much weight, just because I want to have movement.
Mhm.
That's all I'm worried about. But what are some different things that they could be lifting for? Maybe some different goals that they could set from themselves.
Yeah, I think with any of this, just knowing what is your goal in the off season, right? And I think we talk about season and off season. I want you to think about it not as an on-off switch. It's not like when I'm on and I'm focused, I'm high protein, and then it comes the off season, and maybe I'm a lifeguard at a pool and I'm just eating popsicles and candy out of the concessions all the time, right? It shouldn't be on off. I want you to think about it as a dial, right? That we're going to dial it up and then maybe we pull it back a little bit more of that leeway. I think, and you and I talked about this a little bit, is not focusing so much on, I know, gosh, when I think about goals, even as clients I have worked with in the past, right? It's like, well, I want to lose weight, right? That's the first thing they think about is I want to lose weight. But instead of thinking about so much of the scale, I want you to think about like, can I get stronger? Can I build strength? Can I change and better my health? And I know as young women, young men, maybe not the first thing they think about, right? That I do think it's that scale that we focus on, but trying to put that away a little bit and thinking, okay, if naturally, if my scale goes up, but I'm stronger and can wrestle better, does that really matter? And I know you're a big proponent on, no, we're not gonna, don't try to chase that scale. Don't chase a number so much, but thinking about how can I get a little bit better? So yes, defining that goal. What is your goal? And I think if you're sitting here, listening to this as a wrestler and you're like, I don't know what my goal should be. The first place I would go is to your coach, right? To your mentor. Who saw you the most this last season? Ask them, right? Because I bet you could go to each one of your girls and say, here's what I want you to do,
Yeah.
right? Here's what I want you to work on. And maybe it's more upper body for some, maybe some it's more on the endurance side. There might be a little bit, the stamina. So that'll determine, right, where they should go with that. And why that's important is because it does change a little bit on what you should do nutritionally, what you should be doing in the weight room. I know a lot of people want to say like extra cardio. Well, if endurance is your goal, if stamina is your goal, that can help that. But just being conscious of, what am I, how would I want to say that? Is the stuff that I'm doing currently in the gym helping me or hindering me towards my goal? Because I think there is sometimes we think more is better. That if I can do more, I'm going to get there quicker, and that might not be true. So if I kind of think, what are the things that are free that I feel like that these, would really help people if like building strength is getting sleep, quality sleep in the off season, even just thinking about, yes, there's going to be some late nights and early mornings and schedules are going to change here, but don't forget sleep. That is incredibly important as you're kind of navigating through those things. Also thinking about maintaining a step count, right? I always like to hit 8 to 10,000 and just trying to maintain that. And that just knowing that there's going to be some days, maybe it's a little lower, some days a little higher, but just being intentional about getting that movement. I think what you'll find is like, even at our age, as you get older, your joints feel better. You like get out of bed a little bit easier, right? Those different things when you get the amount of sleep that you need and just not pushing all movement to the side. There might be some people that come in here and say, you know what, like I really like where I'm at, but maintaining also means resistance training. And it also means, keeping that protein up because protein is going to be really important. So, Remind me, did I answer the question that you
I think
have?
you answered it very well. One of my goals for lifting weights in the off season is for the girls is protecting important joints. I see
Yeah.
so many shoulder injuries with girls. Is there something really quick, easy in your head that they could do, body weight, maybe with some dumbbells, for shoulder injuries? Because I think that's probably the number one thing. And coaches, officials, we've talked, all of us have talked about how many shoulder injuries we see in girls wrestling. Is there,
Yeah, when I think about that, so Dr. Lane Norton is somebody that I follow quite a bit. And one thing he had mentioned is like how quick people he's big talking about he had a back injury. He's a power lifter, a world champion power lifter, and he had some herniated disc issues. And the first thing that all the doctors told him, surgery, surgery, surgery. And he found out is actually more of rehab. It was still lifting. It was thinking about those things. And over time, he fixed it by doing that. And so being able to, I think listening to him is a great resource. Jumping over and listening to his stuff, he promotes a lot of the things that I believe. I got a lot of my things from him. So I feel like when it comes to that mobility and things is never not moving, right? Is like don't throw it all away, right? Taking the whole off season, I'm going to take it off from lifting. You can do things, and exactly like you said, is going, okay, maybe, dumbbells or we step away from the barbell for a little bit, but don't forget about resistance bands. I think doing things, being able to, just stretch resistance bands, the up and over resistance bands, those type of movements, keeping that flexibility is definitely important. Even getting into things like the Pilates and the yoga, the not so fancy stuff, right? Those things are definitely things that I would think about too. I like to do like a little mobility session before I start my lifts. It is some of the stretching, the being able to, going to a doorway and just pushing, just kind of like really flexing and making things loosen up a little bit before I jump into lifting. But also thinking about, I think a lot of people say, well, is it better to stretch before, after, different things like that? I like to make my stretching completely separate. I'll do like a 30-minute session of stretching everything, and that's on a day when I'm not lifting. Because really at the same time, I wouldn't say that it's probably not a good or a bad way to do it, but I keep it completely separate. That way I can really focus on doing those type of things. So
do
I
you
think in
do
that piece
more?
of it, it's just not stopping,
Do
not
you know?
not completely letting it go away.
Yeah. Do you do more dynamic stretching or static stretching now?
My dynamic for sure. I try,
Dynamic.
the leg swings, swinging and try to hinge my hips a little bit more. The doorway stretches are, on and then off. I put handles on my bands and I do just presses with the bands. And do, if I'm trying to touch the ground, you're moving your legs at the same time. Definitely dynamic. And it's nothing fancy. I'm not following something that says like it has to be this way. Honestly, YouTube, I'm looking up some dynamic stretches. I'm doing the things that I feel like help me. And then I think it's just going, okay, start with a resistance band. If that's kind of hurting our shoulders there, stay there. Right. And then you're moving to the dumbbells. And then if you can, that's where machines, I think, have a lot of value as well. That if you're working on your shoulders, you might find that, okay, maybe on a dumbbell shoulder press, I'm using my weight too much. When you go to a machine, that's going to keep you like, okay, I'm not moving. And you might realize that, oh, I got to go down a little bit and weight and then work my way up. So just being able to, a 3-month membership at the local gym and hit the machines, they have so much value. And I feel like machines were a big part of changing my physique, of being able to see that change, but also realizing that sometimes you got to go down to get a little bit better. So I think that's something that, when I think about being able to be stronger and in my upper body, in my shoulders, it's not just working, okay, big shoulder movements. Don't forget about, you got your delts and everything underneath your lats and your back. And so being able to put all of that together, I think is really important.
Yeah, I'm not real good at the old what's the class anatomy and physiology. That's it.
Anatomy,
But I
yeah,
but I
yeah.
but I know that with everything ties into shoulders. Almost all of our upper body groups, tying the shoulders and things like that. So I think even just being aware of that, to know that my chest goes into my
Yeah, you
shoulder,
got to
my
do your
my
chest. Yes,
all
exactly.
all three
Underneath your
lobes of my
lat.
shoulder, yeah, everything. So yeah, that's yeah. Um, do you do any functional weight training? Maybe into that CrossFit crossover stuff at all? Have you gotten any, like, maybe swinging a sledgehammer, flipping a tire, any of those things? Maybe
Yeah,
just
I
as
haven't, but only because of strictly equipment, right? And I guess I could, out on the farm here, go find something to throw around. But I also think, gosh, throughout the summer, I've got, gosh, I remember even as a high schooler, baling bales, right? That's got its own, throwing straw bales, throwing hay bales, doing some of those things kind of have the natural movement in it. But since my gymnastic days back in high school, haven't really done much of that. And I would also say, doing I don't know, where you a burpee, where you say you drop down and then you got to push up and then you got to add it all this. Just be careful with that because I think some of those movements, if you don't do them correctly, you could actually cause a little bit more injury. And I
okay.
think when it comes to like a clean or a clean and press, those type of things, if you get with heavier weights and barbells, you definitely want to be with somebody who knows what they're doing in that aspect. So just kind of keeping that in mind. So no, I think there is some value in it. I personally haven't gotten into that.
Not your thing yet. So yeah, I'd have to agree
Carrying
with you.
five gallon buckets, back and forth for
Yep,
horses. I mean, that's about as functional
that's
as I get.
yep. No, yeah, no, I agree with you, especially on some of those. I know the first time I tried uh, the bent over deadlift where you're, not so much that you're using more back. Man, I threw my back out and I was in very good shape at the time. I mean, it took me a week or so just to do that, just because I didn't have proper technique. So yeah, having that proper technique is really important. So probably having, a good instructor would be great. And that's probably why some of the times we don't get into the weight room, because we don't know what we're doing and stuff. So if you were going to throw together, um, for the girls, 5 or 6 things that they could do every day, body weight. Let's say they're just not comfortable going to the gym, don't have access to the gym, don't know what they're doing, and can't find somebody to help them at this time. What would be some great ways to start? How would you put together a similar workout to what we did the other day in wrestling and the
Yeah,
practice?
I think the first thing I'm going to say, is, and some of this might be, if we can get some dumbbells, right? Adjustable dumbbells up to 25 pounds, just staying with that. And I think you can get that staying under a decent amount of money, say under a hundred
Yep.
bucks. And you can I would say get yourself a medicine ball, a jump rope, and a set of adjustable dumbbells up to 25, right? And so what I want you to think about is, and getting something you can do pull-ups on, right? That
Yep.
would be the other thing. So the push-ups, the pull-ups, jump rope, medicine ball slams, those are things that explosive type movements using our body. Then I would think about, we're a little bit of talked about if we can get those dumbbells, getting just a deadlift, a simple dumbbell deadlift. Maybe it's a Romanian single leg deadlift. There's different variations, and single leg stuff has a lot of value. That unilateral movement, and doing a deadlift type thing, a squat, doing a squat, even body weight only. And what's cool about, I mean, squat, you can grab a jug of water, right? Can you hold a couple jugs of water? Just something that's going to add a little bit to you. You even think about, gosh, like cans of soup. You can curl those, you can press those. Even that little bit of resistance has some value. So I want you to do a shoulder type press. You can do, you mentioned a little bit like a row, something that you're pulling up. Okay. And pull-ups themselves can do that as well. And then some sort of chest movement, being able to press something. Again, can you hold a couple jugs, some light weights, different things like that, laying on the ground on your back and just pressing up, down here, pushing up. So those are the things that I want. And even like, and you think about like a push up, just reverse it. So, laying on the ground. Same thing
Yep.
on a pull up. Can you lay on the ground and be pulling something? So those are the type of movements to be able to work everything. And then just think about, write them down what you did. and just think about, okay, now all I have to do is repeat that. It doesn't have to be, crazy by any means. If you're thinking about, okay, I want to work more on the, getting faster. Maybe it's doing some interval type sprints outside, and then just, can I go for a walk before and after, just getting some extra steps in. Devote that time, maybe an hour a day. And I think hopefully everyone can say, if I get up a little bit earlier, I can do 1 hour of going for a walk and some sort of resistance training. Starting there, I think is a good thing. And what I have found, if you can tell someone what you have, I can take that and be like, this is what I would do. So don't be afraid to ask for help out there for what you have. And I think everybody, if no equipment at all, we can't get any of that. It's just thinking about, the body weight squats, being able to do push-ups, pull-ups, and then yes, think about your core. Our core is important as well. So doing our crunches, doing planks, different things that are going to get us to tell our body to do something and stay there. I think that's definitely important as well. So those are the things that kind of jump out to me where I would start.
Gotcha. I think even on core, I saw someone the other day that said, just try standing with on one leg,
Yes.
and then close your eyes while standing on
Mm.
one leg, and or holding your arms out or holding your arms in, and different things like that actually helps your core because every time you adjust, you actually are strengthening that core. And so that was kind of a interesting way to look at things, and you don't need a lot sometimes to increase just where you are.
Yeah.
Um, I'm going through my list. I think I have answered most of my questions. And every time I do these podcasts, I think it's fun to get to know people a little bit better. So I want to do some not so focused questions, just kind of some fun questions. And I'm going to get a chance just to have some final thoughts, and we'll see where these take us. And a lot of times these are kind of interesting to do anyway. I'll start easy. If you're gonna get a podcast shirt, what color shirt are you gonna buy?
Ooh, podcast shirt. I want bright. I want maybe actually I say that and I've got all neutral color that I would say, like, I want black with bright is probably the first one, but then out of my comfort zone is going to like the neon colors, getting a neon pink or a neon orange. We'll go there if I'm getting uncomfortable.
All right, so we're gonna get bright colors. So the pink or an orange kind of helps me think about presents and things like that. So, um,
Perfect.
if you're doing your workout, do you listen to music during workouts?
I do. Yep.
What music style? What's maybe some of the favorite songs?
Yeah, right now I'm on a kick of I start out with Thunderstruck by AC/DC, and then I just I'm Spotify and I just let it take me wherever it goes.
Okay,
And I think, I remember when I was training for my bodybuilding show, the last one I did, it was Five Finger Death Punch and a Five Finger Death Punch radio, and I just let it go
nice.
wherever it wanted to. So those are probably my two genres that I kind of navigate towards.
I know, bodybuilding competitions maybe not quite the same as a wrestling competition, but it's also still you have to be prepared and ready to go out, and I'm sure you have to be in a frame of mind in order to compete. When you're going out to compete, do you still do you use music before a competition?
This last one, I wish I would have used it a little bit more, just to kind of keep my mind off of things and just also coming into it, like I think our mindset is huge. That confidence coming into it saying like I am going to win this, right? That I'm prepared and I'm ready, and it just going into thinking like, okay, I've got this. Okay, that I'm coming in and I am going to win it. If there's a little sliver of doubt, it's crazy how much like that could feed into something. It's just going in with confidence that, hey, I am ready, I am prepared. And you know what? If that, whatever the outcome is this, how can I get a little bit more prepared for the next time? So that's just kind of the mindset that I try to go into it. Even, gosh, I remember saying, okay, like Courtney, you got this. I think I was deadlifting. I had just hit over 200 pounds, and it's like having that conversation. You've done this before. You've done 195. It's only 5 more pounds, right? It's just coming in and you can do this. You're prepared. You're ready. I think that mindset and that conversation, if it takes some music to make you have that conversation with yourself and maybe block everything else out. just finding those little tools, I think are really important.
And I didn't even think about this. You were a competitive gymnast for a long time. Um, in competitive
Yeah, I was. And I did that,
gymnastics.
like in high school, oh gosh. We'll date ourselves here, right? I think the old Walkman, but you had to hold it
Yep.
flat because if you tipped
Yep.
it, then it would skip. So you had to hold it.
Yes. Yep.
We didn't have, headphones or anything fun back then. But I also noticed, a lot of the wrestlers they have headphones or something covering.
Yep.
I was like, gosh, that would have been great just to block out maybe some of those thoughts and the questions, like, to get the question marks out of the way. So I remember gosh, in high school, we didn't do any of that stuff, but it was almost like the floor music that played before yours, you knew, right? Because it was that girl in front of you. And so almost that song or that music playing that is like, okay, I'm getting ready, right? I'm gonna be up soon. I think a lot of people also think, well, I get really nervous, use that. Like channel that nervousness isn't a bad thing. I mean, that is like, okay, now you're ready. Use that to get in the zone to kind of push you to where it needs to be.
Yeah, we talk a lot about pre-match ritual on the
Yes.
podcast, and I talk to the girls about pre-match ritual and just getting that mind frame right and stuff because I still want them to be their own person outside. I don't want wrestling to change them as I have to be a mean person all the time. But when we cross that line, when we cross that line and we put our foot on the line to wrestle, they really truly need to be a different person. I thought, man, I'm sure in gymnastics that's kind of got to be the same mindset. It's still an individual sport. You have to be prepared for your competition. And, I had a simple thing like shaking my coach's hand was that switch I flipped. Was there something that I mean, you mentioned the competition music ahead of yours was one thing. Was there something you did maybe that got you to perform the switch was flipped?
I think, gosh, I back in gymnastics, I can't necessarily. I remember bars, right? You got to put the chalk on your hand before you go. And I think I always stood in the exact same spot, and I just knew that spot, whether it was I was hopping on the beam, I'm in front of that springboard, I know exactly where I need to be. Like maybe I marked out my spot and I know it. So I just kind of keep that. I think, like you said, it's that habit, that routine. What is it to you to get you to say, okay, I'm ready, right? I'm focused. And I wouldn't say it's like, coming out mean or anything, or maybe it's you said shaking your coach's hand, maybe it's the slap of the thigh, or, it's whatever just kind of says, okay, I'm here, I'm ready, I'm focused. Gymnastics, I can't necessarily remember. I just remember I always stood in the same spot. But I think about now what I do competitively that brings that feeling is barrel racing. And I think we're also very like, okay, I tighten my horse's cinch a couple different times when I go. I get off right before I enter the warm up area. What are the things that I do? I tighten my belt. I kind of like have this routine that I try to follow because it's like, okay, you're checking those boxes, and then that when that last one goes right, in order for us, I think for me in barrel racing, if I show up for myself, I feel like I'm showing up for my horse, but it starts with me. And I think just realizing, okay, that I'm in control, that I've put in that work, that's kind of the thing now that makes me think of some of the things. And it's crazy. I think we all do the same thing over and over again. We might not even realize it. So
Hmm.
you asking me those questions is like, what are those things that I do? And
Yeah.
it's we all have them. And I think it's important to know what those are, right? And also
Yes.
knowing maybe it's the things that not the things that get us in the zone, but what are the things that get us out of that zone? Like, it's like, is it just talking to a friend right before, like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that, right? That kind of got me a little bit, or maybe it's that talking to the friend that got you out of that worry zone and into the next one. Like find those little things that, okay, this is what I need to hop into that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, some people I can tell a joke to because they're too tense,
Yes,
and get them
get
relaxing a
okay,
little
that
bit.
gets them out of it.
Yeah, get them out of it. Just I'm trying to find those things because the mental side of all of our sports are so important. Um, Next question, and you might not have much time being a mom and doing all the things that you do. Do you have a favorite show you sit down and watch? Are you binging anything right now?
I have been a Dateline fan forever. So I'm big on those Datelines and figuring out who did it and guessing who that is. So I think those type of documentaries are my go-to. Right now, the O.J. Simpson one is out on Netflix, so I've been enjoying that. And so maybe that throws me in a category that scares a little bit of people. But those investigative murder
Yeah.
mystery type things are my go-tos.
We'll take note if people start missing around here. So,
Yep. I mean, there might be questions.
do you have a favorite movie from, maybe way
Favorite
back?
movie. Gosh, though, and like you said, with my kids lately, all I've watched is like Trolls and Despicable Me, and some of those other ones are so good. A favorite movie. I think like the one in college that I loved was Bridesmaids. Like all those comedy type ones were
Uh-huh.
like my go-tos. But gosh, I think right now I don't necessarily have one. I love all the kids' movies that are out, but that's our go-to. Just saw Moana 2, in theaters. Those
Nice.
those are all awesome ones.
Yes. So you do watch, I'm sure with kids watch a lot of cartoons, and I've been bringing this up.
Yes.
Have you hit Bluey yet? Is Bluey one of your go-tos?
Well, and I think we're almost out of the Bluey stage, unfortunately.
Uh,
It's Paw
can you?
Patrol, Bluey, and now my kids are moving into some YouTubers that I have
Oh
never heard
God.
about, and they say that they are awesome. And I think they're just reviewing games and stuff that they do, and it's crazy. So we're phased out of Bluey, which makes me kind of sad.
Yeah, I don't know if I'll ever phase out of Bluey. I watch it even when the little kids aren't around.
Those have such good messages though. Like I watch those and I'm like, oh, like it's just awesome. And I was like, I want my kids to stay in that phase. So maybe I got to push that a little bit more.
Yes. Favorite lifting day. I know mine was, always in high school it wasn't. I was in high school, we were back I was in the mid to late 80s, and everybody had huge upper bodies and little tiny itty bitty legs. So
Yep.
bench day was always in high school, but then I really out post high school I've learned that leg day is my favorite day. What's your favorite lifting day?
Yeah, always I've been an upper body person. Anything upper body I get more excited about, I have to say. But I would also say I think it's because lower body is I've always thought it as my weak point, right? That is like, gotta work on my lower body. And I saw that as a bad thing, but it's a great thing. It's right, our mindset. It's lower
Mhm.
body is great. I just love, and I think I can push a lot more weight with my lower body. Those are the days I think I feel like wow, like I'm really doing something. But I have to go upper body is probably my favorite. Anything with like a row or a lat type pull movement. I like those days.
I know the girls absolutely love workout clothes. We were just in Coralville, and we were walking in that area down by the arena, and they saw Lululemon, and they were all freaking out. They had to go be in the Lululemon. What's your favorite workout clothes brand?
Nike.
Nike, the Nike Pro
Nike's been, I've
stuff.
got a lot of like Zia. I think that's how you say that. Some Zia, some friends that have done that in the past. Those fit great. Nike lately is just because I can run to Hibbets and grab them, run to Shields and grab them. Kind of a quick, because if I have one that doesn't fit or something happened, like quickly want to change. So Nike's been my go-to.
Gotcha. Uh, we'll get into some more of this nutrition stuff, but kind of the bad side of it. The guilty pleasure food. What is the one, it's cheat day. What are we having?
For me, it's got to be chocolate. Chocolate
Chocolate?
something. I think it's Linder Balls, Ghirardelli chocolate. Those are the go-to when I need something sweet.
Yeah, I'm a ice cream person. I could eat ice
Ah,
cream every
yes.
day, any day. It's actually its own food group as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific, we get away from guilty foods. How about just what's the snack? What's the everyday snack for you? Is there a certain protein bar or is there something that you really like?
I at the end of the day, and it's not too soon after supper, is I love either like a skinny pop or a type of popcorn. That I do love popcorn. It's good fiber, it's filling, and so I like to grab the portion size bag. Smart food or a Skitty Pop. Skitty Pop has a sweet and salty, so I'll have a serving of that, a bag of that, kind of to finish the day.
And I always ask everyone, you get your choice of vacation, no matter where you want to go, beach, mountains, anything. What's the dream vacation?
I think something where I can hike and be active, and then maybe it's coming down the mountain for like a martini or some sort of margarita, right? Being able to have something fun afterwards. So that's what that way I can feel like I got accomplished, got some good steps in, but yet can have that relaxing feeling afterwards.
Very nice. Got through my questions. I'm going to give you an opportunity for a little bit of final thoughts for the day, and then we'll be done.
Yeah, I think, thinking about this coming into the off season, we talked about is figuring out what your goals are. We talked about not focusing so much on the scale. What I do want you to think about is, and even asking that question of your coach or your mentor or your peers, are what are some of the skills that I need to get better at? Maybe it's and this is where you can help me, Troy. It's the takedown. It's the escape. It's the what skill can I get better at? And then also realizing, I mean, summer is a time for camps and getting better and sharpening those tools that you already have in your arsenal. Or it's adding tools to our tool belt that I can get a little bit better at. So unless you're competing in tournaments and you're out there trying to stay, in a weight range so that you can qualify for those things, and I think a lot of people take a break from the competitive side. You're not doing tournaments and matches and those kind of go away. Use build your skills, go to camps. Really think about, reaching out to here's a weakness of mine, and maybe it is in the gym. Get out of that comfort zone and ask somebody for help. And that's something that I'm more than willing to, kind of lead and give direction. And, I don't have a program you can buy or anything out there, but me, myself, I've been there. A young athlete wanting to get better. I'm learning more and more about wrestling. As you mentioned, I was more of a gymnast and a softball player. But I think all of that ties into each other. So even you're listening to this and it's not a sport that you're into, use that off season to get better at the little things, right? Even it's like in softball, right? The slap butt, the little things, right? And you're coming back to wrestling is just thinking, what am I really good at? What can I get a little bit better at? Maybe it's just sharpening that axe a little bit, or it's like, hey, I need this completely different tool to, be ready and be better for that next season. So I just think that's something to take and carry on. And that's just some advice that I mentioned to Troy. I had reached out to a collegiate wrestler for the Augustana Vikings up in South Dakota, and he had just said, if you're not in tournaments, what are we here focusing on our weight? Forget that. Stay high protein, eat healthy, lift heavy things, but think about how can I get better at those skills, right? And maybe it's again just identifying that goal, figure out what do I need to get better at that goal. And that's where it's like, that's the center of it, and things can branch out from there. So those are my final thoughts.
Awesome. Very good. Thank you very much. I know you're going to end up being a regular contributor here when I have questions on all these things that I don't know much about, or just, it's great having the female perspective on it. So I really appreciate you coming on and spending an hour with us and giving us some great information. I know you have Instagram because I follow your Instagram. It's give it to me again because I can't think of it right off the top of my head. It's
Yeah, that fit farm her. And I think if you
That's
type
it.
Courtney Blenner, it'll pop right up. But that fit farm her, and then on Facebook, it's Courtney Blenner. I try to share both things on there, but I also try to
Yep.
stay, what can help anybody, right? Things that have helped me better my physique, things that have made me a better athlete in my 30s, and also thinking about ways, you mentioned it that I mean, I've got young kids and girls sports and just sports in general are coming up a little bit more, thinking about things that they're going to need and learn. So I hope to keep coming back with things that correlate back to sports and just how to get better and how to improve.
All right. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we will talk to you later.